Welcome to Enlightened AF, starting with a little bit of a dance because
dance party.
Tie. Trying to get the blood pumping through.
Yeah, that was false energy right there. Or that was us reaching for somebody else's energy.
We found it.
We
Actually,
did.
and I had to do so before I start my other podcast, Charmed Life. I usually I open a sacred space and I say a little invocation, like a little prayer. And I had to do it for this one. We don't normally do it for Enlightened AF.
No, we don't, huh?
No. Yeah, Aim was like, what are you talking about? What do you do? And I did it. So I opened a sacred space. So this is a sacred space in which to have some fuckery, I guess.
Fuckery. Bring us the fuckery gods.
Yeah.
I have a few fuckery gods.
Laughter is healing. So that's kind of our...
Was it you I was telling that I feel like my spirit guides are always like cracking up about stuff?
Yeah, it was me.
Yeah, they're funny.
Well, I have a gnome guide who curses at me. Yeah.
Yeah, nice.
I'm not talking about your ex-business partner. It was just a really short person.
In stature and morality.
That's true. Yeah. No, my gnome guide is a benevolent being. Oh, speaking of which, I would like to go ahead and plug something if you don't mind, Aiden.
Hit it.
Are you going to come this Saturday?
Yes.
You are? Okay. He's like, no, I'm good at marketing. Remember, I told you to say yes to all things.
Yes,
and.
I will be there. I can't wait. I'm cooking.
You said that you may, actually.
I'm bringing a dish.
So I'm doing a series of workshops. The first one is this Sunday. It's a couple of days from now. And
in Burbank.
That's right.
Yes,
he remembers now.
I got you. Now we're on board.
It's a workshop to connect with spirit guides of many different realms. And so, the deal with spirit guides you can also think like in hypnotherapy, we kind of go into the experience, and if someone isn't mystical necessarily as I look at things, then it's kind of like looking for your wise self. Thanks, Kurt. It's actually under Mystic Arts Academy, and it's like the first little class.
There's helpful
thing.
Stuff.
Yeah, you got it.
Look at how springy we look, though. We're springy. I'm looking at us, not that image.
So yeah, and what I'm doing. So
they can go. Where is it at?
You
can go there live in person, right?
You can go there live in person.
If you're in LA.
I have a few spots for the live in person ones, and then you can have it online. You can access it online. It's in Burbank. It's right around the corner,
California.
Right around the corner from the Nickelodeon studios,
home of Bob Hope.
So it's like
airport.
I'll be doing some lectures, some like education about all of the kinds of energies that exist in the different realms of our multidimensional universe, and then I will lead in meditative kind of trance journeys for everyone to go and meet their own. You've been to some classes like this where we do a little talking and then a little journeying.
Yes.
Yeah.
And right?
Yeah.
And I've done them with Maggie with the Spirituality Salon.
Yeah.
The Spiritual Salon. Mm-hmm. And I find it fascinating, especially I want there to be like a spiritual glossary.
Well, that's what I'm going to kind of do at the front end.
Good,
with the education.
Oh,
yeah.
okay.
Is like talk about the different kinds of energies.
You should stop just digging around in your brain and let you talk, huh?
Oh no, I like it. No, it's perfect. Yeah, because that's it. And the idea of the like education part isn't to like set up new dogma or new structure or things like beliefs. It's really to kind of open up your fascination and give you something to spring from. So.
Tell me this. I mean, like speaking of that, and I'm sure this is something you're going to answer, but spirit guides, like we talk about them, right? Mm-hmm. I am uncomfortable with the term because I'm not uncomfortable because it sounds really woo-woo to me.
Okay.
Right? And I think a lot of people are.
Well, that's why I was saying, like in hypnotherapy, you may guide someone in to find their wise one. And which is like the wiser aspect of themselves, the wise. And I think that's potentially, that it's the same thing, the spirit guide, if it is a different kind of being or consciousness in the energetic realms, but they're still connecting with you, a part of you where you resonate with it. And so it's an aspect of you in your subconscious mind that is facilitating you. Yeah.
And obviously, I 100% am on board the concept. I just know that I only just started calling it spirit guides, and I used to me it was like different voices, not voices, because it's not a voice, it was energies.
Yeah.
It's a whole energy. It's not a voice. It's not like
aspects.
It's not like somebody in a rocking chair somewhere.
It's like a literary voice. It's
and
a different
and it's easy to put them. Yeah, it's easy for me to put them on, like my grandmother or like Mr. Comiskey or people that were influences in my life.
Yeah.
And so obviously the resonating voice of them is sort of like I can hear their voice. I can hear their opinion of things that are happening in my day to day. So I wonder how much of that is just the impression that people in your life, in your history, have indented on you. So you're hearing that all the time, or if they are really with you
But here's
in
the thing.
now time.
Even if
There's a question.
it's both. In my
Is this
experience,
current
it's
time,
both.
or are you just knowing what that person who indented on you's response would be? Like, that's a beautiful flower. My
Right.
grandmother would say something like that.
I'm
is
saying
she
it's
with me
both.
right now, or is she? Am I?
In my experience, it's both. But if you don't have to have the experience that I have of them also existing right now. You don't have to have that experience in order for it to benefit you. Because
I brought a little coffee to work today.
Because what's fundamental as a part of the experience that actually works for you is you resonate, is your part of your connection with them. You see what I mean? Like what you had a connection with them, you have a connection with them. That is a kind of life force energy, a loving energy, a positive integrative energy.
Yeah.
And you access and utilize that. That goes for, I mean, if I am here with you right now, you can access our energy when you're not with me and know my opinion, my feeling, my support in something. So
Yeah.
you see, it's still your connection to it, regardless of that person being an actual existence in some dimension or not. You see what I mean?
Yeah.
So fundamentally, that's what's the only thing that's important. I
Right.
happen to experience it. My knowing of it is personally is that they are also beings that exist in other dimensions. But it doesn't really matter. You don't have to have that experience. You see what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah, I do.
Yeah.
And jumping from that to the same thing. First of all, did you finish plugging this Saturday? Because they can go online, right?
Yeah, you
I
can go
talked
find
about
it.
the place. And most people are in the magic
You have to
box.
sign up on my website, which is Trisha Carr Charm. Kurt put up I'll put the link in the description of this episode, but you can find it at trishacarrcharm.com/MD-guides. You don't like the word hyphen, dash, but just go to my website and go to Mystic Arts Academy. You'll
What's
find all my
hyphen?
classes. Why do you not know what a hyphen is?
Yeah, what is that the dash?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Why don't you know what a
Because
hyphen
it's such a
is?
convoluted, huge word for the word dash. Why can't you just say dash?
It's a huge word.
Yeah, it's weird. Totally makes no sense to me. I've never understood that one.
Which one?
Hyphen.
Oh,
Why?
I thought you said colon, didn't you?
I had a good idea.
I thought
Business
I
idea.
thought you understood colon.
That was a reach. She's talking about assholes. But she's reaching so far from punctuality to that. Good God. She's like a 12-year-old. Here's the deal.
That's a very smart 12-year-old to
I
make
was
a
like-
grammar joke.
Grammar jokes are not funny.
Just categorically.
Look, you're the only one that would find that funny. Grammar jokes?
I was just making grammar jokes, texting illegally while I was driving with Brian, my husband, on the way here.
You should know that any fodder for any jokes between you and Brian are not funny to anyone else. You two you two found each other. You are your swans.
We are our swans.
Yeah.
We're in love forever.
Yeah.
We're perfect matches.
Yes, because no one's laughing at grammar jokes ever.
Someone came in.
Wait, I had a thing.
All right,
I had a
you
thing.
have a thing. Do a thing.
You just took me off on the grammar, right? No, but I had a thing because because one of the things that while we were talking about topics, but I was so fried from my hot yoga this morning.
Yeah.
Namaste, everybody, because I have worked out all of the drugs from 1987 through 94.
He says it's in your bones still.
No, I said muscles.
It's not. Oh, it's in your muscles
Yeah.
still. I thought it would be
No,
flush
not really.
from your muscles.
I'm just super high from being like.
But it
in a
can.
hot
It is in
yoga
your.
class.
It can be in your column, your spinal column.
Yes.
Your column, your spinal column. It can be in your column.
But my body's like a truffle pig. If there were drugs anywhere in it, they would have found them and utilized them already.
Yeah, accessed it, yeah.
Yeah, I would have
Okay.
just burned those up like 6 years ago. I left no stone unturned.
And you weren't even sober
I'm
6
like
years ago.
chewing my fingernails. Like, it might be a little.
You found
coke
your
in
own
there.
stash.
Yeah. Anyway, one of the topics that I was going to talk about, but it's really a subtopic of what we ended up talking about, which was civic responsibility versus
Energetic stability.
energetic stability. There you go.
Yeah.
Semicolon. The or hyphen. It's hyphenated.
Yeah.
Is that one of the things that I feel like, and feel free to call in on this one. but
323-524-2599.
I feel like a lot of people are sort of. I feel like more and more I question, but I don't question. But I feel like a lot of people are not listening to those spirit guides / intuition, like meaning the answers are clear.
Yeah.
And I feel like lately, and because I'm in program, and I have just a lot of friends who are, spiritually awake and aware. They're asking me questions that are so obviously answered And I find myself doing the same thing.
They in their question to you, like for advice, they've answered it because you're
Yes,
like,
and the universe has answered it for
it's
years.
an insane question.
Yes,
So, yeah,
and it's like so funny to me, and I'm not certainly keeping myself out of this category. How many people, I mean, like that are just like, oh, what do you think I should do about this situation? And you're like, are you kidding? Like you have never had any choices in this situation. The universe has done exactly what it planned from day one, and yet you somehow are still contemplating it. So the denial of that intuition and or spirit guides, and I'm not just talking about like buy a red car. I'm talking about like what you want to do with your life, all these things. I feel like, so how do you get in touch with that? And when do you have what I call it's a shoe dropping moment, when the shoe drops and I'm mad? Like when I left the liquor industry, or I left it in the capacity, I had to leave. I knew I was an alcoholic and I had to get out of the liquor industry. And a shoe dropped metaphorically in my mind in the middle of an event. And I was like, fuck, that's what it is. Like thing. And it wasn't like I was unclear about the fact that I was trashed a lot of the time, but I was keeping that going. And I remember when that shoe dropped and I was like, oh, like, and it was a matter of days. I didn't have anything to do with the process that ended that job. Like leaving, getting fired, things. The bar
burning
was over.
it down.
It was gone in like about 3 weeks.
Dematerialized, yeah.
But I felt it and heard it, and it was my doing, not anybody else's. Like, it had to go for me to live. So is your relationship or your job or anything, metaphorically seeing that shoe drop, do you listen to it?
Well,
you have an example of it sort of happening.
I do. Well,
I just drawed you down the garden path.
Yeah. Well, here's the thing. You can listening to it is it just happens. I mean, so listening to it, there are there are little subtle nudges about it, but when you change what you're calling shoe drop, when you have the absolute shift in your energy, then it just starts to show up in the world. It just does.
Even if you're resisting it.
Well, yeah, but when you're talking about the shoe drop, it's like, well, okay,
that's acceptance.
But here's the resistance.
Shoe drop is really acceptance,
right? So when you say you're resistant to it, it's just that you don't know what else to do. So you don't know the how and the when of what the unfoldment will be, but you just know that this ain't it. Whatever's going on. So when that happens, and for me, mine was how it shifted for me. My shoe drop wasn't really like a shoe drop. It was, I actually just I kept doing some inner work, and then I had like a kind of button, one that I just really ranked into. One session, I've talked about it last week or the week before, I don't remember, where I went in and cleared up some fears about survival. And then 2 days later, my reality changed. And had I not done that, then I would have flown into I don't know what kind of anxiety. So here's the thing. I got there in a peaceful way because I was insisting on doing my inner work, and everything is totally unfolding fine. You know what I mean? Like it was everything is amiable. Nobody is upset. Nobody is hurt. But if I had been resisting it still would have broken. Like the energy would have broken rather than resolved is what I think. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like rather than releasing something, finally the thread would have worn bare, and it would have broken, and that would have been,
I guess
else.
And that you did that very gracefully, and not just gracefully, but you manifested that, and then it removes any of the, oh my God, this is happening to me.
I mean, there's plenty of times like everyone else. I remember storming out of a job because I was sick of them. You know what I mean? Like
same, but I feel like more and more, I very rarely. I guess what I'm trying to, very rarely am I like, oh, I can't believe this happened to me kind of moments. And so many people I know that I love are like, oh my God, I can't believe this happened to me. And it's not, because like the graceful moment, like everything that happened after that moment for me, and that was a pivotal moment in my life, I didn't get to say, oh my God, I can't believe this is all happening, because I knew at that moment that I was creating all of the next series of things, and it saved my life. I never felt like I was caught in a washing machine wave that was going to sprawl me onto the beach. I knew I had set this motion, all of some really scary transition in motion with that decision, and like that's where. And to bring it back to the spirit guides, that's the gift I think that listening to my spirit guide in a really rough time in my life, somebody was like, hey. This is what's about to go down. Yeah. That premonitory moment. shoe drop for me was saved my life. I thought back to it all the time, and I was like, this isn't happening to you. No one's out to fuck you over.
Yeah.
You created this.
Right. Well,
Valuable.
A part of your ego broke there, and that's why it went. And in the breaking of it, so with mine, I dissolved a part of my ego that was terrified of something. You know what I mean? Like some kind of survival fears. You actually kind of broke in that moment that you're talking about a part of your ego, and became objective to it. So then you were like, you know, that part of your ego is now basically there. Like you know about it, you remember it. But it's not, you're not connected to it. You've become objective to it. And so as it's saying, maybe you can blame someone, you're like, no, I can't. You know, like so you've become master over it. And so you broke that part off and released it. And I kind of I burned mine with acid and it went away. And then, the thing that's so freaking weird is, it's not weird. It's simple that everything that happens first started inside of you, started with that non-physical, with the mental, emotional, subconscious realm. It just did. It always, everything does.
Yeah.
Nothing, when we're in that illusion or delusion of it's happening to me and I'm a victim. Well, I mean, we can get swept away in that, but it's just constant pain. The reason it's constant pain is because it's not true.
No.
And we're denying the truth of what we are, which is
And there's nothing
creators
worse.
of our
There does
reality.
have to be that moment, and there always is, where you're like, oh, I totally instigated this, be it a relationship breakup or starting a relationship or whatever, and you're like, oh shit, like I know I did this, but there's always an uncomfortable moment where you wish that change hadn't happened, or that new addition hadn't come, or whatever, and you kind of have to. The worst part is being like, and I did this. You know,
Right, and so then,
or I don't know if I would even call it. I did this. I allowed this to happen. It was happening either way.
well, allowing something to happen is creating it. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
And so what I've been starting to do is just ask myself, what am I creating today? What am I What is my soul
had a box
creating
of wine.
today?
That would have been so awesome.
It
if you
doesn't
were
even
just-
taste good.
if
It's
you were
water, but it doesn't taste good out of the box and the plastic. Blech.
Well, it doesn't look appetizing.
No, it's good water. I just don't like
I
the
would
taste
have
of
loved
the
it if you were
materials.
just like, I'm drinking rosé, and we were doing this whole spiel, and I'm
I
like,
would-
oh, let's do. I'm talking about listening to your spirit guide, and you're like, yeah, sure. Whatever you say, this Chablis is killing it. I feel like I'm guided by this Almaden Chablis.
No, I'd be way too sleepy already. So
So that
I'm-
okay,
that's something to
Get
get
it.
present with it is to ask what is my soul? What am I creating today? Because I'm in agreement with it, one way or the other. I'm in agreement with it. I want to come conscious to it. If yesterday I was unconscious to it, I want to be conscious to it right now and be in the conscious creation of it. And I accept whatever it is that I'm creating today, and that's helped me. So it just brings you present.
Which
you know what I
sort
mean?
of brings me to the new term that I learned from my Reiki gal, existential dread, which, I just always considered like looking around corners and being smart and intuitive. And instead it's like this constant state of like dread and like, and then getting into my beliefs. Anyway, learning that, and that most people's state of mind isn't or shouldn't be, of course, this is going to go all wrong soon. Because that's sort of how I was raised. Like, like bad rice. Bad rice. It was a term we used all the time, meaning the crop is going to be bad. Because if you bragged about anything, it was fucked. So you were supposed to just be like, yeah, I got a new car. We'll see what happens with that. Like, everything had to always suck.
That's so sad.
Yeah, everything.
So you're not allowed to enjoy anything.
Oh, never enjoy anything because it will be taken from you.
Wow,
For
that's
sure.
just the opposite of truth.
Yeah. Right? That was 100% like the Irish way to the thing and be like, I got a new job. Well, fingers crossed. We'll see where this goes.
Yeah, the
Like,
self-deprecating
if they don't go
life.
burn to the ground tomorrow.
Yeah.
Like,
Well, I think
everything.
But you know what? I think actually all of this, talking about responsibility and everything, we're talking about personal responsibility, but civic responsibility is to actually realize that what's going on in the world, you're not separate from it. So we're all responsible for who the president is or isn't. And we're all we are. And, and you can look at if again, to bring us present, is that we can look at what the word responsible actually means. It means you're able to respond. And so, sure, we all co-created it, but in this moment, what matters is that you're able to respond. And so, how do we manage? I'm a big proponent of stop friggin' watching the news, because the news is, for the most part, is a sales mechanism. It is not an information resource.
Ugh, I mean, I accidentally was getting out of my like affirmation site thing that's on my phone, and accidentally just like grazed through the internet. Wow.
Sorry, I had to sneeze.
Are you kidding with that? She just released a demon. Anyway, I'm flipping through. Like, this is that kind of awareness. I accidentally, my internet like popped open with CNN, and it was like 13,000 Boy Scouts have been molested and there's a class action suit. Ugh. And I was like, and this is like 6:15. I'm like I'm waking up, and I do wake up very tranquil. Actually, it's like I wake up like a dead man, but because I sleep like the dead, literally. Flatline.
That's right. He calls in death to sleep.
Which I now know is called as mini samadhi.
Yeah, mini death, yeah.
Yes.
The small death.
And it's supposed to be. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Anyway, so I wake up out of my crypt, and I sleep in one anyway, so that's kind of convenient.
Like a coffin.
Yeah. Wouldn't that be awesome?
No.
Why? If you just like had somebody over and you were like,
I'm claustrophobic. No.
You wouldn't want to sleep in a coffin? I totally would.
No.
Oh, that'd be so great.
No,
if everybody came over and there was just two tombs in your bedroom.
Do you
didn't talk about it? It was like a PTA, like it's parent night party at the house, and you just didn't mention the fact that there was two crypts in your bedroom.
Do you do that?
And a picture of you with like Abe Lincoln.
Self-deprecation, a sensory deprecation.
I have never done that, but I would like to.
You'd probably like it, yeah.
Anyway, I have read that thing, and that sort of made me think about, like, I mean, the flash judgment. Then you're like, oh, the Boy Scouts are full of pedophiles. Mm-hmm. Anything that you put, anything seems to be any gender-specific related thing, choir boys, anything, mm-hmm. camping, Boy Scouts, anything like that's just going to be full of pedophiles or Girl Scouts and all that stuff. Yeah. And it just made me realize, like, how much stuff, just garbage just gets dumped in. And that's not garbage. That's a pertinent story. And the people involved, I'm sure, are, traumatized. But what do you do with that?
Well,
there's the question. Like, what do you do with that information?
I believe in the power of, oh gosh, I'm going to sound so evangelical. I believe in the power of prayer.
That's what I want to hear. That's it. And then we'll tear that apart.
I experience, I understand that, actually shifting your energy about it, sending love, having love for the situation, trying to find a way to have compassion for everyone involved. Somehow, like the butterfly effect, it shifts the energy of everything. It is a support. It really does work.
I agree 100%. But I just know that
and
now
if you brought
the
it
information
into
age,
the information into your
reality, I feel like a lot of
reality.
people feel like just being informed is being responsible. So they're just sucking up all this negative energy,
right?
Propagating it, then reposting and talking about what perverts everybody is in the Boy Scouts or whatever, as opposed to the millions of kids since like the 20s that have like, whatever, had done what they've done. I think it started in the Depression or something. I was never in the Boy Scouts, so I don't know. Mm-hmm. But anyway, whatever the topic is, it's like everybody's just jumping on all the negative stuff. Mm-hmm. And they think that is civic responsibility. Mm-hmm. Like civic responsibility is like building a road or putting a brick in a bridge.
Right.
Right? That's like not actually helping society. Running cold water.
Not like propagating blame and shame.
That's what now like we consider civic responsibility. Being like, fuck you, Chick-fil-A.
Well, here's the thing. Blame is literally irresponsible. It is the opposite of responsible. If you're blaming someone, then you are saying, I forfeit my ability to properly respond to this in a manner that is actionable of any kind or energetic. Mm-hmm. So if you just blame and shame, you are actually denying your part in it. And so you aren't helping.
Yes. It was my problem, and it was my problem with the Me Too movement that just happened. Mm-hmm. I don't feel that the lasting results are going to stay there.
I didn't, and when that came out, there's
a whole bunch of lawsuits and legalities and stuff, but
I didn't want to do that.
It was just all this.
I didn't do the hashtag Me Too on social media, and I have been sexually harassed at work.
Same, first of all, but
but I mean, like, officially, like when I was 17, this manager kissed me on the lips, who was an old guy, he's 34, and I slapped him, and he took me off the schedule. And my mother, I told my mother about it, and my mother, like, you know, went and had a meeting with them and everything, and they transferred the guy to another restaurant. But whatever, I didn't have to deal with him anymore. That was all I could do as a 17-year-old. But I mean, there's a verifiable case, not just like the subtle stuff that obviously goes on.
I'm super grateful that things came to light. I really am. The Weinstein thing all the way down. 'Cause I have a daughter. I'm super grateful. It made me reconsider my own actions. I am an employer and I hire people. I certainly like walked all through that gray area all the time. I didn't, you know, like when I hear those people now saying I didn't know, certainly some of the ones that more benign situations where comedians were on stage and said like off-color comments, not jerking off in a hotel room, but like that was always pretty obviously that was always not okay. Not that I didn't do it, but it was not okay. But nowadays, there was lots of gray area that like I understood when those guys my age and older were like, that was not a thing. Like I wouldn't have known that like saying, hey, you're hot, it was making her uncomfortable like that. I thought that was like a really comfortable thing to say.
But yeah,
putting somebody in uncomfortable situations.
Well, so
the game has changed. However, I don't think that. First of all, I can speak to it because I am a guy and the thing. But also, I don't know that the sort of finger pointing. I don't know what positive things come out of it.
Well, so the Me Too. I think Me Too isn't necessarily all finger pointing.
Just Me Too.
I think Me Too is just. Well, here I actually will share someone else's story, and it's actually I think it's Whitney Cummings' story, who's a comedian. And she was like at someone else's show in the back, you know, like some other female comedian, and she was standing with her friend Nick Kroll, who's also a comedian, and the one on stage was talking about being sexually harassed or something, or it's something about sexually harassed or molested or something, and she said, you know, like how many of us here have experienced that? And Whitney, along with many other women in the room, raised her hand, and her friend Nick Kroll was like shocked. What? You know, he had no idea. And he's one of the guys who would probably never did do anything that upset or, you know, made a woman uncomfortable. But he had no idea that women, that many women that he's that close to, all in his life, possibly all except for, you know, like 99% of them have experienced something like that. Whether it's a literal assault or something that is a shade of it, which is, you know, harassment or something. And so that's what good it did. Was because it could. That's one thing that it did is that it activated people who are innocent but haven't been helping because they simply didn't know. I mean, that's just one thing that it did. But it's bringing awareness. Bringing awareness to things is a good thing.
Like the shoe dropping moment when that was happening, I was uncomfortable because I knew there was a shift and a change that had to happen. And so it made us all uncomfortable, men and women, because we knew that there was like an uncomfortable shift that had to happen, society across the board. That I think is good example of like civic responsibility.
Yeah.
Right? Like there's the hope that at least if those incidents happen, it's on the table that they're not okay. You know, like because that wasn't even always clear. You know what I mean? Certainly, like every 10, you know, you can go back to the 60s when like slapping your secretary on the ass was just like good morning.
Yes, but it was not okay. And everyone...
It totally was. Like that girl couldn't have gone in and gotten her boss fired for that. They would have been like, lighten up, sweetheart.
Oh, well, yeah. I mean, like, technically
that was only 40 years ago.
Technically speaking, it wasn't wrong. I mean,
no,
so far
at all. It wouldn't have even been considered a write-up.
Ethnically speaking, it was horrifying. Yeah.
Not back, by the standards of that time, though. They would have been like, she's a tight ass. She can't work here.
I understand that. I'm saying that in the history of humanity and the fact that we are in beings, it's wrong. And they should have known better. They should have. Yes.
Yeah. Right.
It was.
Well, you can't know what you can't know. You can't know what you don't know.
Well, you could say there's a phrase that's like, being ignorant isn't your fault, but staying ignorant is.
Fact.
So a moment of not knowing something is not your fault. That's like conditioning, and we all have conditioning. Or at least I don't know if you could say it's not your fault. This may be not exactly appropriate. That's how I've heard it said before. But everyone shares that trait. You're ignorant or conditioned about something. But it is your job to educate yourself and to uncover that conditioning and uncover the ignorance. And so then use your ability to respond. And one way it happens is because if you are an innocent person like Nick Kroll, then it is someone else has to activate you by telling the story. And that's what Me Too is really about is, you know, women in particular, well, not necessarily victims who are especially of sexual abuse it tends to, it hits some kind of injury. It has a primal kind of injuring effect, because boys, or especially like, boys who were molested, that they hide it. It makes you this kind of victim that clams up. And so being able to have brothers and sisters who say, hey, it happened to me too, it makes you feel stronger, so that you can actually speak out about it, stop the guys who are doing it, or, you know what I mean? Like,
Absolutely.
whatever,
Yeah, no, absolutely.
There's power in that.
Awareness.
Yeah. So it's all about awareness.
I think awareness, yeah, and I think that it's interesting, I mean, like, as you awareness is like a really an interesting word, when awareness or responsibility.
Well,
civic
so
awareness.
what do you do with the awareness?
There you go.
You have to do something with the awareness, and doing something with the awareness is.
Do you though? I mean, can't you just change that energy, like you were talking about?
Inside, yes, that's doing something.
Yeah,
that's doing something. What is doing something that is not helpful and actionable in a positive way is just then throwing the blame somewhere else, or shaming someone else. That is not helpful. That is actually adding to the energy of war.
Yeah. Wouldn't it be interesting to see, like, I mean, like with the Me Too thing, but with any other social sort of change or transition, wouldn't it be interesting if we could get, if like Weinstein or Bill Cosby is even darker, believe it somehow, but like, if you could get, like, nobody wants their opinion, they just want to hate him and everybody enjoys it, but does anybody want to know, like, or hear where he is now, or what he may have learned? Does anybody even care? I mean, like, he probably wouldn't.
So it's like, here's the thing,
and not an apology, but like, here's what happened. Yeah, I did all that stuff. I thought because I was a big producer that I got to do that. Like,
I actually do want to hear that, but I don't. At the same time, I don't want him to have a platform.
Yeah,
like I would like to sit down with him individually. You know what I mean?
But you wouldn't want him to get a break.
Yeah,
and I get it.
Yeah.
But he wouldn't.
I'm interested in psychology, the psychology of it. So that's why I would like to hear it, but not because.
Wouldn't it be really interesting if we could somehow be like, right on, he learned something from that, and not return any sort of the. I
not rescind any of.
I think he just financially got beat up. Because he didn't nothing.
You mean Weinstein?
Yeah.
Yeah. Not rescind
which for
any
him
of
probably was worse than jail.
Not rescind any of the effect. But it would be, I think it would be great, and I believe in our society to be able to get to the place where the person who has done that has actually learned from it and changed, and then they could share it and say, you know what I mean? And people could stop throwing, knives at them.
Yeah. I think that, especially
and say, okay,
as somebody,
great, we're glad.
Well, that's it. Somebody who's a strong believer in that you can change your beliefs and everything, like everything about who you are and what you want to, what you want to put across. I believe that he could as well. I believe that, like, you have to believe that, like, an axe murderer, a serial killer could change. I mean, we have to believe that. Wouldn't it be really cool if
not, then
not that you would excuse the behaviors, but like that you were open to the fact that he could change.
That's not the point.
Then the world isn't going to change. Why are we even bothering to do it?
But that's not the point. The point isn't to take away the effect of what has what had already happened, or to excuse the behaviors, or to condone the behaviors. That's not what forgiveness is about.
Right.
If forgiveness isn't about condoning what happened in the past, like,
you're not signing off.
Yeah, you're not signing off.
You're saying, I believe you can change.
I release you
from that. Yeah. Let's move on.
Exactly.
I think that's an interesting, and we just haven't done that at all.
It's a really base kind of immature mindset that says, if I forgive someone, then I'm condoning their behavior in the past. That's not. That's not the math that we're doing here.
Yeah.
And isn't it ideal that someone who has done something that, let's say it's terrible, Cosby or whatever, that we could see, oh my gosh, he really has reformed. That doesn't mean we make him president, or we say, yeah, that's great. He absolved from all of the things that he was, he shouldn't have to pay any penance or whatever it was that we have going on with the legal system or something. That's not the point.
I guess one of the things that I know that first of all, I came out of a fog, like a historical fog, like 4 or 5 years ago, and all of a sudden all this stuff was happening. That was happening, and I know that for me, I had it really resonated to me, and now I'm really going all over the place. But like, I grew up in the '70s in Boston, right? Like busing Boston, like we had a giant. It was, first of all, the set post Vietnam. My parents were super hippies. Boston was probably one of the most racist cities in the country. And they were, busing happened. I grew up in this atmosphere. Busing affected me. I lived out in the suburbs.
Busing,
and
does that mean
meaning
like taking
black kids got sent out to the white
their school?
neighborhoods, and they integrated the schools.
Oh, okay.
It was a massive thing. Bricks going. There's pictures in Life magazine.
That happened in the 70s. I mean, it started happening in the 60s.
It happened
60s.
in the 70s in Boston.
Wow, okay.
They finally integrated the schools thing.
Yeah.
That's how long it took. And as that happened through the 70s, and it was a success, and I grew up with that happening, and my generation, or what I thought, we had like jumped through some big hurdles towards integrating the city, and and 40 years later, like, I don't see that we are almost worse. I mean, the 70s was almost more progressive racial divide, meaning like racially, we are in a worse place where my kids are now than we were then. Like, at least then there was like this really upfront, honest discussion happening. People who were racist were allowed to say it. They said it out loud. They did their thing, and they tackled those issues in the 70s. Now there's just this massive, so now it's like gay rights, trans rights, all this stuff is coming up, but we still haven't even fixed that one from the 70s. Like, we still are a hugely racially divided city.
Yeah.
And bigoted country.
Well,
and
it's
when I was 5 years old, we were fighting
layered,
that fight.
and it is like, it is awakening. You know what I mean? Like, there are deeper and deeper dimensions of that. Layers of subverted racism or sexism or whatever kind of rejection of people, categories of people. There are layers of that subversion. So I think that when you're saying we're worse, I think we're technically not worse, because the kids are integrated in the schools and people can get married, you know what I mean, to whomever they want. But there are different layers of it that we're seeing that had been subverted. So maybe I'm saying that where I thought we would end up,
the kids are integrated in the schools, but is the world integrated? Is from the schools?
But that's what I think is. That's
did
why
the kids
you see
that I
it right
went to
now.
school with lived the same life I did with the same privileges and stuff? Like, they were supposed to then grow with us. It was supposed to then be a colorblind world, and that certainly didn't happen.
No.
So
it's still a work in progress.
Cynicism about the Me Too movement, because now it's just become this, like, bigots, obviously. And when I was a kid, the N-word, bigotry, everything was super, super no bueno, right? Although nothing really changed.
Yeah.
Right, so all of a sudden it became super no bueno, and now it's unfortunately due to like it's kind of okay again. Like, when I was a kid, like, I grew up Irish
it's
Catholic
okay
in Boston.
to use the N-word?
Yeah.
With whom? Just the
Just,
what, black
I listened
comedians?
to it on the radio all the time. It was
not with white people though.
No, but white people all sitting in the car, singing those songs when there's not black people around.
Yeah. Well,
True,
yeah,
right?
Yeah.
Yeah. How many people, like, I just love like the Paula Deen thing and everything. Everyone who was like, yeah, screw that cracker, like, get her out of there. Like, just put a room full of white people together and say, have you heard the N-word when there were no black people around? Mm-hmm. Fuck yeah. Mm-hmm. We all have. That's all she admitted to.
Yeah.
Right? So she grew up in the South. Like, it would have been even grosser if she'd said, no, I've never used that word. Mm-hmm. I mean, like, have we ever heard it in a room when there was no black people in the room? Of course.
Yeah. Have you met my family?
Yeah, but not even from racists, even in like an aside or somebody who you consider intelligent.
I told you, I thought that was the actual word. I didn't know that when I was in Sunday school when I was 5 years old, and I thought the teacher was pronouncing the word wrong because she said Negro. I didn't know. I thought it was, she was like, had a weird accent.
I'm just saying that civic responsibility and civic awareness are two different things. And civic responsibility is not discussing what's going on, or let's say not openly sexually harassing your secretary, but making sure she never gets a fucking raise.
Yeah.
Like, because that's the same scenario. I'd rather get slapped down the ass and get that fucking raise.
So my husband,
because the conversations just all end, and it didn't even end up. The conversations all ended with racism, and we still have it. The conversations ended with sexual discrimination and sexual harassment, but now we're still going to have it. It's just going to be all under the radar.
my husband was just talking to me today because he's unfortunately a white guy. You have a button undone there.
Oh, you're welcome.
No. Fortunately, the camera doesn't.
Hot yoga stomach.
I don't want to.
Me too, right there. Did you see that? She just used her foot and pulled my pants open.
My husband was talking because he's unfortunately a white guy like you, and he was talking.
Unfortunately,
because it was
Irish,
really interesting. So he was saying
we're a minority.
he was saying that he recognizes that he was just talking about like in the profession that he's in, that they're perhaps in certain more progressive companies, they are intentionally trying to give more opportunities to women in the same position that he has. And he's like, okay. He goes, I get it. He goes, things swing around like that, but ain't going to swing back this way for a long time with the white guy. He's like, I'm a middle-aged
this
white
sounds
guy.
like my cousin who used to always.
But he's like, so he's okay with it. He's like, that's fine. But he goes, here's the thing that I'm actually in because of the sort of
women are taking all the good jobs. Is that what we're gonna say now?
No, he's not saying that. He's recognizing it. But
Yeah.
he goes, but here's the thing. It's good to know because this is actually what women have been experiencing for decades, for generations. Is
Yeah.
because, it's like if I'm not getting a job and I don't know why, they're not going to say because we're looking to put a woman in that job. They're not going to, and they shouldn't. Like the pendulum shouldn't swing so far that way that they actually just say we're being positively sexist either. And he goes, so it actually is comforting, or it makes me relax. And then so he's like, so then basically I just work with the system however it is, and
Right.
and that's fine. So
Yeah.
but that's I don't know. Is that a good thing though? Like affirmative action, is that a good thing? Where people, if the people are qualified, I think it's fine. You know what I mean? Like if the people who are getting the jobs because they're a certain category
Same.
are qualified, then who cares? It's just a person who can get that job.
Right. Right. But now, and I've heard the flip side of this. Okay, so I hire people all the time, right? So
Yeah.
guys that are pervy are worried about all this lawsuit and stuff like that. Now I have heard more than a few times, I don't want any women in here because I don't want any problems. Oh, across the board.
You mean
so
like
believe
owners
me, like,
of companies or
yeah,
something?
yeah, because
my
they're
gosh.
like, oh well, let's just
Wow.
keep that situation out. So just like
That's awful.
what? You don't think that isn't a decision that people make? They're like, oh, I think she's hot. I'm afraid I might say something out of turn. She's not hired.
Oh my gosh.
I've heard it a dozen times since this started.
And do you
it's the
shame
flip
them,
side
please?
to that. Huh?
I said, do you shame them, please? After my rant about not shaming
Sure.
people.
No, because I'm all sure.
Sure.
Be-
I don't want to feed my children, so yeah.
Sure. No, it's just, no, I just look at that and I think, I mean, like, unfortunately now, especially sober, I have to look at like the ugliness of humanity all the time and be like, oh, wow, that's a real thing. And it's probably always happened with minorities. Anybody who like when that shift happened and there was fear of, there was fear of any kind of retaliation, anything. A lot of people's answers, I know for a fact, is like, okay, well, I'll just make sure that there are no women in this atmosphere that or we'll keep the one or two that we've got going on, but I don't want the pendulum to swing here.
Yeah.
There's every pendulum goes like that. That's why I was referencing the 70s, and I'm not saying. So what I'm saying is, how do we skip that? I mean, how do we not skip that? But how do we keep the awareness going, without?
Just do your own work.
Or how do we keep the responsibility going and not just the awareness? Like having a fucking Facebook thing that says #MeToo is great, or having a hashtag situation. But how do you keep the awareness, like the conversation, alive?
You have to just keep doing your own work and then be available.
Interpersonally.
Yeah.
So being like, that's what I was talking about, like making these consumer choices
all you can do.
about companies where you're like, oh, I'm not buying anything from Domino's because they don't support Planned
Yeah.
Parenthood. Or whatever.
Yeah, talk about
great,
the Chick-fil-A
but how
thing.
about talking to your kid? How about talking to your neighbor? How about if your neighbor's a perv or whatever, having a conversation with him?
But you talk. So do you talk to your kids about the Chick-fil-A thing? Because so Chick-fil-A actively, personally, excuse me, the family that owns it actively supports like
Yeah.
the
anti-gay agenda.
Yeah,
They were against gay marriage, I believe, and I
Yeah.
didn't look into the whole story, but I think that their whole
But-
story was.
But as a company, they don't discriminate. So, and you said your kids actually eat there daily.
My kids eat there constantly.
Yeah.
And I know a lot of people who do. And like my kids love that place. They just opened one.
And
I'm plugging it right now.
Do you know? Yeah, exactly.
I'm just plugging. And they've given millions to anti-gay. I think they were super against gay marriage.
Have you talked to your kids about that though? Like
Yeah.
what do they say?
They did not get plugged. They did not get activated politically on
Kind of
that.
hard though because kids, it's hard to
They're
get.
like, that's fried chicken.
That's kind of hard for you to get activated politically as a kid. There are some rare kids who are though.
Right. So I was like, well, I mean, like they are so there's the question, like, do you actively boycott
with your money?
Chick-fil-A, even though there's great people, good people, including gay people that work there and are and appreciate it, and people that appreciate their food, or do you try to change their minds or
See, for me,
continue to create
with-
awareness. I mean, shutting them down means what? Millions of people don't have jobs.
Yeah, and
like,
since they are
Chick-fil-A
doing,
is not that family; it's a business.
it's a business, and since as a business they're following the law, I guess, you know what I mean. Like they're not just the law, but they aren't.
It does suck knowing
no
that
one
a
is-
couple bucks from what your lunch is going towards that anti-gay agenda.
But do we need them to die? No, it's not. It's not that literal though. Like, do we? I just think that those are that they can be compartmentalized. If the business,
Yes, I
as
agree.
an entity, is doing what it's supposed to do, and there aren't people who are reporting that they are discriminated against or they have a hostile work environment or harassment or anything like that, then again, that's a business and it's supporting a lot of people. It's
But
not the same as the
within that,
family
I guess
who are
maybe
personal.
because you and I grew up in atmospheres. I grew up in obviously I had aunts and uncles who I loved who I knew were racist. They were older. Most of the old people in Boston were racist, whether they were black, Jewish, white, or whatever. They only liked their own people. It was
Yeah.
a secular town,
Segregated.
and secular, meaning my family weren't racist just towards black people. They didn't like anyone who wasn't Irish.
Secular means non-religious.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, that thing. So yeah,
Segregated is what you meant to say.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Ah, secular. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Anyway, how do you keep that conversation that ends up happening?
Sorry, grammar nerd. Grammar
when
joke.
people jump out of there. I know, right? I was like, really? Tells you how secular I am.
Kurt's putting it up as word of the day.
Is it?
Yeah.
Oh, I love it.
Secular word of the day.
Oh, well, you're very secular.
I know what secular means because I used to be very religious.
Oh, she was such a weirdo Bible beater. I would love to have met you in high school. I would have dumped your books every day.
Nobody did. I was still a cute blonde.
Oh my God. Did you put out?
No. No.
Well, then definitely getting dumped.
I didn't have sex until I was almost 20. So no,
How
definitely
about
not
just
during high
head
school.
into the water fountain? Remember that?
No, I was not a nerd.
You weren't?
Well, I was, but you know what I
I
mean?
was like, what town did you live in?
I wasn't like
Nerdsville, USA?
I wasn't like glasses. Although I did wear glasses, and they were basically like George Costanza's glasses.
I wish we could. Can we find the perm picture that you showed me? That cool little perm picture.
I don't know.
Everyone's got one. Who thinks she has a great perm picture? I kind of have one
have
too.
a lot of 'em,
I
yeah.
have like a hockey haircut perm.
Oh,
Like,
do you have a mullet?
I had a full big like mullet situation
Oh.
and like kinky weird hair. It was an interesting time frame.
It's on my Facebook. Yeah, you're not going to find it by Googling. It's somewhere on my Facebook.
Mine is on there.
profile.
My mullet hair is definitely on there.
Actually,
on
the one that you're
internet.
talking about is my glamour shot, and while it's permed, it's also
Is there like a sparkle in your?
there's all kinds of sparkles, but what is really fantastic is the is my actual senior photo, because it's like the perms have happened over and over. Here's one. There's a perm situation happening there that's coming
yeah.
up. But the senior
And again, let's
photo
start
is
this conversation.
horrid.
Let's go back to the fact that this conversation started with you saying you weren't a nerd.
Yeah, I know.
Okay, what is happening
That's
there?
that's prom.
That's you. First of all, aren't old enough for that to not ever have not been cool.
That's prom. I was 16, 17, I think. Yeah, I was 17.
Oh wow, really?
I think it's adorable,
adorable.
with
It
the
really
long
is.
gloves.
It's adorable.
I went to
Look at the
prom with
gloves.
Steve Roman.
I went to a bunch of proms.
Why?
I don't know. I ended up going to a whole bunch of proms. I went to a couple different towns. They were like all kinds of proms. I remember that
Yeah,
much.
he found it. That's my glamour shot.
Wait, what?
You haven't seen that
Okay,
one?
yes, that's it right there. Oh,
That-
that's your beauty queen,
I'm actually 15 there.
Texas beauty queen.
I was not in
situation.
Texas. That's in Buena Park, California.
Oh yeah. Okay, same thing. Buena Park, California is Texas. Your family
It's the
found the
Tex-
closest
it's
thing
the
to
Texas
Texas
of
in-
California.
Yes. Buena Park, California. She's killing it. And are you at like one of those mall things?
Yes.
Oh,
It's a mall
hell
thing.
yeah.
And it's digital photography,
It's almost
which
a
was the
little
first time I'd ever seen
Jean-Benet
that.
Ramsey
It's so gross. So my hair is like that. It's actually pinned to the backing. It's
I
like
think-
pinned like that. So
Kirk,
that's
you
why it's
can
sticking
pull
up.
up. I put my teen picture. Mine's on the internet. I think just I want mine next to. I want me and Trisha to have a show on Fox with both our shots because mine actually matches yours perfectly. I would
Oh
have
yeah,
been
you
your
have
date.
yours. Yeah, you look like Corey Haim in yours.
Yeah.
That's right. And your pants are way too high and they're pleated.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's good.
I think no, wait. Oh, they're pleated.
Yeah, I
don't
think
even-
they're pleated because I think
I
that's
don't
how they made them
remember,
then.
but there's like a thing.
But like Aiden Demarest, actor, it's gonna bring up that headshot. I think.
It's like a thing, but we definitely would have been in the same. No, not that one. That's cool compared. Anyway,
Well, Kendall leave Kurt to his job because it's not interesting.
It's not.
All right. Well, okay. So Chick-fil-A, you're
So
like whatever.
yeah, I'm leaning towards we're gonna have to stop eating there. If they're gonna be dumping, I mean, like that means that is obviously I know politically like the ultimate control that you can do. The ultimate leverage you have is dollars. And so yes, not eating somewhere. But would that change their mind? Would they no longer be giving that money to?
Well, I don't know.
Just shut them down.
I don't think it would shut them down. I don't know that.
Well, if everybody in the whole country stopped going there for that reason, it would shut them down.
Yeah, but
Nobody. That's not the case. But still, if for some reason there was a situation that made it that hardcore, it would shut them down. Like Weinstein.
I'm laughing at what Kurt is creating.
What's he creating?
He's creating your wish that you side by side.
Oh yeah. Is there a show
All right, there we
happening?
go, everyone. Yeah.
Is there a show happening?
It's our show.
Yes.
So you do have to watch this on YouTube. If you're listening on, first of all, if
That's
you are
our Fuller House right
if
there.
you are listening on iTunes or another podcast outlet, thank you so much. Please do like, subscribe, share, comment, and review. And also find us on YouTube. You know that we do live broadcasts. We live stream on YouTube every time that we're up. And so you can see the beautiful display that is a mullet and a perm that is up on the screen right now.
All of the hair's happening. We are crushing that. That is Teen Beat magazine at its finest. Like, right?
I don't think you are, but I was not that was not Teen Beat style. That was just hillbilly.
You're in Buena Park, California. That's right. We could definitely have done like a Saved by the Bell episode together.
So I think that
Did we cover that?
I think we pretty much. I think that wraps up our
Did
show.
we kill that?
We killed it
because I'm out of scotch.
Okay. Well, we will be back next week sometime. We're usually on Thursdays at 7. Today we're on Thursday at 3. We'll let you know, maybe. So
keep you updated.
We do hope that you will
listen to your spirit guides.
Subscribe, share, comment, and review. Share with your friends. Thank you so much. We'll see you next week.
Bye, guys.